What's up, everybody? My name is GARDNSOUND. This is GARDNSOUND 365. This is the show where I write music every day for a year. Next 3 days, I'm gonna be doing a series of music. I had a thing happen to me this morning where I woke up and realized that this series is coming to a close faster than I think I want it to. It's interesting having a deadline for when this series is gonna end. Kind of puts pressure on my brain in a way that nothing really ever has before. And I've had some goals for this show that I haven't achieved yet. Pressure is on for me to fix that and make sure that I achieve those goals. I'm gonna be starting a 3-part series today, Monday, Wednesday, talking about how to make music like Deadmau5. Now, you might be asking yourself, why am I doing a 3-part series? Deadmau5, why a 3-part series? Why are we doing 3 parts? It doesn't make any sense. That's too many parts. No, he's got 3 distinct styles. There might be more small offshoots, but the majority of his music has basically 3 means. There's the Deadmau5 style, that's kind of the epic build style, as I like to call it. That is songs like Strobe. Then there's the complextro kind of jump up house style, and that is definitely songs like Some Chords, the one he did with Wolfgang Gardner, Animal Rights. And then there's the progressive house style that he kind of invented along with a couple of other artists simultaneously. Those are songs like Faxing Berlin, Brazil, his early style that was mostly progressive house. So we're going to be doing 3 different videos, one on how to make Deadmau5's song Strobe, one on how to make Deadmau5's song Some Chords, and one on how to make Deadmau5's track Brazil. Today we're starting off with Brazil. There are a couple of versions of this song out there, and let's not get into a dick waving contest about which one is the best. I'm gonna use the second edit because that's the most popular one. Alright, so we've got the track Inside of Ableton. Well, the first thing I'm gonna do is warp it in. I already know what tempo it is because almost every single one of Deadmau5's tracks are at 128 beats per minute. So this is the first out of many examples where Deadmau5 is going to use an interesting theory trick called chromatic mediant exchange. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. He does the same thing in Some Chords. That's why that song's progression is so unique. Whether or not he's conscious of it is a different discussion, but there is a really cool theory trick going on here that everybody needs to know about. What I'm going to do now is start off by analyzing the different sounds themselves, because the track itself in terms of its complexity is very simple. But it's put together in a very careful way. So let's start with the very beginning here. It's pretty simple. We've got a nice compressed chunky kick. We've got a couple of like clap samples / snare samples that are all layered and compressed together, so we get a lot of attack and not a lot of release. And then we've got a closed hi-hat with a very, very short release with a piercing attack, right? Throughout the song, he starts to add a little bit of sort of reverse crashes, and sort of building techniques. And we could synthesize those, or I could just steal them from Vengeance Essentials, which I believe is the sample pack that he's using for this particular track. And by the time this line comes in, we don't really care about what else was going on. And that all consists of 2 different synthesizers and layers. One of them is what I call the Deadmau5 synth, which we'll get into. The other one is a bass synthesizer that's basically just duplicating the bottom layer of the Deadmau5 synth down an octave. So what I'm going to do is pop a new MIDI track. This one's going to be for the mouse synth and another one for the bass synth. This part might get kind of boring, so I'm just going to fast forward through it. That'll do for now. All right, again, we have 2 synthesizers here. I'm going to be using Massive to build these because I think you all are going to benefit more from me using Massive other than something like my Virus or something more authentic like a Moog or even a Moog emulator like Contact's or Reactor's Monarch, because everybody has Massive. It's easy to get your hands on. And I want this to be a tool for you all to learn from. So due to the time constraint, I did a little bit of soft screen. I want to show you what's going on here. 2 things being controlled over time. Actually, I lied. 3 things being controlled over time. You have the compressor's threshold. So this is the threshold for the sidechain compressor. Well, first of all, what are we dealing with? I thought this was 2 separate synthesizers, and it is during certain parts, but during this breakdown, everything you're hearing is actually 1 synthesizer. I've made the entire thing in Massive. Here's what it looks like. So what we've got is 3 oscillators, one of which is our main oscillator, our main pitch, our C4, right, our default octave. And then above that in oscillator 1, I've got an octave up, slightly detuned, and below that, oscillator 3, slightly detuned. So this whole thing is 3 separate oscillators. One of them is a saw wave and 2 of them are pulse wave, and they are basically being modulated with an LFO and envelope for the filter and the cutoff. It's a low pass filter basically. And so what we're doing is over time we are increasing the amount of noise that's able to come out of the synthesizer, right? And we're also increasing the length of time that that sound carries on after we've pressed the key. In case you're interested in studying this further, I'm going to be uploading this to Patreon for my Patreon supporters. And so there's 3 things being automated while the synthesizer is playing. We've got the compressor's threshold that's coming down on the second half of the breakdown, the filter 1 cutoff, so the longer the synthesizer plays, the more noise we get, as well as our a macro that is synced to the release of all 3 oscillators at once. And then if you put them all together, you get something like this. Now what I've got to do, take the synthesizer I made and write out the rest of the song. So I'm going to do a little bit more work off camera and I'll be right back. So we've got this bells track here that I had to write in, and it sounds like this. It's basically octaves doubling up what the synthesizer is doing. So we've got that. The other parts we have are these effects tracks. All right. Now these are just effects that are supposed to be building and just kind of getting rid of like some. Instead of white noise, he's using cymbals. So those combined together, along with a little bit of extra editing and filter work that I did to the main Deadmau5 synthesizers, are going to give us the track. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on here with this line of theory, okay? So I'm going to open up this track and show you something inside of Ableton. I'm gonna zoom in real close here. This is interesting because this pattern repeats every 3 bars, but it's a 4 on the floor kind of song. So in order to compensate for that, he's got this unequal phrase length. So instead of having 16 bars per section, he's got 12. So it took me a second to figure out this progression right here. It's not exactly a difficult progression to figure out, it's just difficult to understand. So I'm gonna show you this. So take a screenshot, pause the screen, do whatever you gotta do because I can't hold this up and talk at the same time. Okay, so basically what's going on here is we are in the key of A flat major. And I'm only using the E flat, which is going the whole time. The E flat is that, it's repeating the entire time, you can hear it. I'm only using the E flat when it's convenient and when it's part of a chord. Otherwise, it's just an NCT, okay? A non-chordal tone. We have A flat, C, E flat, right? So that's the 1 chord. That's this part. All right, then we have this chord right here. That is B flat, D flat, or the 2, minor 2 in the key of A flat. Then C, E flat, which is right here, which is the minor 3 in the key of A flat. Then we have C sharp F, or excuse me, D flat F, which is the 4, major 4 in the key of A flat. Then we have this chord, G flat, D flat. 2 ways to look at that. We can either look at it as a major 6, or we can assume, and this makes much more theoretical sense, we can assume that there's an implied B flat underneath it, and it's the 5 of 5, which is a borrowed chord, the chromatic median exchange. Instead of going to a minor, right? Instead of using G flat C to make it a 6, what we've done is we've gone from C to C sharp, and now we have a 5 of 5, borrowed chord from another key. It's also called a secondary dominant. I don't have time to go over what a secondary dominant is in this video. If you're more interested in it, go look up secondary dominants and the idea of borrowing chords from other keys. Then he goes back to A flat for just a brief second right here to reset it so that it goes whoop, back around. It's a genius progression, and it's completely circular. It just continuously resolves into itself over and over again. That's why it works. So aside from a little bit of mixing, this tune is done. What I'm gonna do is mix this down off camera, then post that up as today's song. So stick around for the end card so you can see that. Thanks to everybody who submitted content yesterday for Coffee Time. I had a really good time reviewing that. I don't know if we'll do Coffee Time next week. We might take a week off, but I'll decide that in the next couple of days here. So stay tuned and look forward to that. I hope y'all are as excited about this Deadmau5 series as I am. I had a really good time today. I hope that shows. But as always, my name is Gardner. I'll see you guys tomorrow.